This is the world's biggest privately owned Ford collection. As you can see, this is rather huge. This collection spans from approximately 1903 to approximately 1949. Mr. Hartog refused to collect cars made from Ford after 1949, circa 1950 onwards. Reasoning, he just couldn't care. As we see right over here, we have a large variety of everything as is original, factory correct, one-of-a-kind cars, and also cars which share a very unique and interesting story. This is a 1930 Ford Phaeton, powered by a four-cylinder straight engine. The remarkable thing with this one uses a taxi cab in Egypt all the way up until 1995. And it's all original as is. Now this looks very similar towards a German Maltier, which is a tracked vehicle similar to a German-made Ford in the 1930s. I love these skids, these ice tray Model Ts. Now, you can have every color you want as long as it's black. The reasoning behind it is because black is the fastest drying color there is. We've got cars with a nice reflecting mirror behind it. Some of these cars are now for sale. This one, for instance, is from... doesn't really says. Oh, it's a Ford Open Tourer Model T, made in 1916. So this is exactly 100 years old. Looks really good. Interesting story behind this one. If I recall correctly, this is the only Model A taxi in this country. It's a taxi cab made late 1928. It says here this is the only Ford A taxi in this country, in the Netherlands. I love it. You know, the black and green and the white color combination with the black vinyl roof. Love these wooden rims. You can see the difference between those and these. Now we're approaching on a bit. Mr. Hartog was a vivid collector of limousines and sport coupes and all of that. We can see basically the difference between, you know, the early Lincolns and the later ones down the line. For instance, this is a Phaeton, made in 1929, and to the later ones, the early mid 1930s, approaching 1940. At least that's what you think. We got a red one or a blue one. This one's from 1937. It's powered by a nice big 4,425 cc's V12. Something tells me this thing was rather fast, because it looked like it going fast. Now, of course, we got the hearses. It's a Model T Type 131A. It's been used as a funeral car. It's made in 1922. And the one to the rear, well, to the right, it's from 1931. And this one actually did service as a funeral car in Antwerp. This basically is, you know, the original Ford. It's nothing more than tires, a chassis, an engine, radiator, gearbox, tires, and the steering wheel. It says over here, the first 800 T-Fords were only equipped with 2 pedals and an extra lever to reverse. It is stated that driving a Ford Model T is rather awkward because no other car then, or now at least, is similar. You can see new designs of chassis and engines. Look at those tires. Now, I believe that the tire company Corker actually makes these. If we press the button. Now, the tire company Corker makes these factory correct reproductions. They also make new Polyglass GT tires and BF Goodrich and all of that. But also including cars which are well over 100 years old. And you can see the internal design of the engine, the radiator moving. Drive shaft. Right behind it is pretty much the 3 of my top 5 best looking cars ever. I mean, just look at that. Imagine rolling up into a party in the 1930s or 40s. You didn't show up, you arrived. This one is from 1932. It's a Model Victoria. It's a Type 50L. It's made by Lincoln. It's powered by a big V8. 5.9 cc, so that's approximately 352 cubic inches. Big engine, especially for those days. Another Lincoln Type 236, 236. It's a sedan, V12, 8.85 cc's, and this one seats up to 5 people. Lincoln 507 V8. I believe it's rather similar to the first one to the left. Now, when I first saw this, especially, you know, the way it looked, I thought it looked like a bit of like a Jaguar, but it's not. It's a Lincoln. It's a Lincoln made from 1933. V12 model KA 515. And of course, if you could afford a car like this, you either drove it, or like most people back in the day had, get your own chauffeur. Although this one is of an acquired type. He doesn't really say that much. Now, you know, you're a big baller in the world of car collections. if you got an entrance like this, especially to the right, car collections or motorcycle collections of anything from Harley Davidson to the local manufacturers. We've got vehicles, motorcycles from straight from the Second World War. We've got Harley Davidson. This one's a 1915. Now this is the Mr. Peter van Vollenhoven Hall. He was a big car collector, fan of it as well. The whole Dutch royals were. You start on the left, end up all the way towards the right. There's also another collection behind it. This one's a Ford V8, 1937. And we slowly and gradually move up to 1938, 1939, 1940 onwards. Again, this car is for sale. Absolutely gorgeous. You know, the color contrast between a dark red, looks like royal maroon, piano black Ford red, to the later onwards, you know, the nice blues, the grays, the anthracite colors, the green, the red, the yellow. Going onwards with the collection, this is what I meant earlier with the color contrast between the different ones. We got the blues, the greens, the reds, the dark blues, all the way down to the 1930s again with the blacks, and later on also with the woodies. We even got a rare convertible. Love the vintage license plates. That's one of my, pieces that I like to pick people on. If you drive a classic car, at least if possible and legal, get a vintage correct license plate that matches with the car. Otherwise, it's just, it looks good, it sounds pretty, but it's not vintage correct. 1946. This is post-World War II. Interesting fact about car manufacturers like Ford, Dodge, Lincoln, later also on Plymouth and Mercury. They had a bit of a problem because after the end of the Second World War, most of the car manufacturers, the molds and the spare parts and tires which they made previous during the war, they were still on store, so they actually made 1939, 1940 Fords in 1946 and 7 and onwards until the spare tires and parts ran out, and they quickly continued and upgraded to modernize their production. Now this is something that I really like. This looks like fun. Lots of fun. It's a 1932 Ford 40 Roadster. 4-cylinder engine, 50 horsepower. Something tells me that this is a lot of fun to drive. Going further. Focus. Here we go. Ford V8s. 1932, 65 brake horsepower. This one's an interesting one because it has a special body build from Kellner AG in Berlin. Interesting fact, the Germans during the Second World War loved Ford V8s, especially for their power, their reliability. It wasn't until the mid-1960s when Mercedes-Benz came out with the 6.3 liter Grosse, the big engine that was somewhat similar to the engine and horsepowers like Dodge with their 440s, Fords with their 390 big blocks. So the Germans loved the manufacturing of Fords because the Ford Mittelwerke, the Ford factory in Germany, lost their official licensing and connection with Ford after a certain Adolf took over. Not a Woody. It's a 1932 Ford station wagon, model 18. Engine's a V8 bore, 3.116 inches, stroke 65 horsepower, 3,400 revolutions per minute, and it's a 221 cubic inches engine. Full price new, a jaw-dropping $600. Those were the days. Love the contrast between the wired wheels with the black paint, white wall tires, and the painted ones. Going on down the line, that is one of the many fire engines this collection also has to offer, including the 1921 ambulance, the Red Cross wagon,
You're welcome.
Going down the line again, we are now approaching 1940 red pickup, dark blue pickup, black pickup. We got a large variety of different vehicles, light trucks, tow trucks, bread vans, including a car from a rather famous fella called Al Capone. You may have heard of him, especially people in Chicago. Bodine looks like a postal car. Field trucks. Texaco fuel truck again. I really love the bright red color, especially the one behind it from Mobil Gas. This is a Carpenter truck. And this has to be my favorite car or truck, the entire collection. It's a 1930 Ford 187A. It's an AA truck. It's a 4-cylinder engine, 40 brake horsepower, 2,200 revolutions per minute. Love the vintage Ford logo, 1930s. It's black. And it is owned by a guy called Capone. As in Al Capone. Now this is a rather interesting truck again. It's a Ford 188A truck, 1928. Special interesting of this vehicle is because this car runs on wood. It has a wood combustion engine, rather popular during the Second World War. when the Germans confiscated the majority of the 9,000 fuel stations Holland would have to offer. Regulations and other requirements were enforced. People were not allowed to drive vehicles on Sunday. Most of that were in order to conserve fuel and diesel. Going on. Rather interesting camper. It's a 1931 Ford 229A camper. It's made in 1931. This camper was used for 2 people. Go back towards the Al Capone truck. This is the behind. Serving Chicago's finest. Yeah, I would like to believe that as well. Ford service truck, tow truck. Love the little dolly which they use in order to actually tow up and trail the broken down car. Service cars from 1931. 40 brake horsepower, 2200 revolutions per minute. Lifting capacity is 2,000 kilograms. It's metric. Engine is a 3,285cc 4-cylinder engine, which I find rather ironic because it says Ford V8 on the side. So I would expect that a tow truck would use the V8, but who am I to blame? (1946). This is a dump truck. Going on back towards the fire engines. Again, of course, the big elephant in the room, or in this case, the only ice truck in the collection. It's a 1930 ice truck. Classification is an A Ford 130B. 40 brake horsepower. 1948 Ford truck, type 81798W. I love this one.